Hello guys, welcome to the new episode of New Tech Dojo. In this episode, we are going to focus on machine learning for non-coders. This episode, we have Chandni Sharma. Hi Chandni.
Hey, hi everyone.
So Chandni is cloud engineer at one of the largest internet companies in the world, and she's working towards recommending and engineering cloud artificial intelligence, orchestration, and big data solutions for her company and its customers. If you look at her profile, Chandi's got a wide range of experience in cloud AI, cloud technologies like GCP, AWS, Azure, and even different domains like BI, forecasting, analytics, API, big data. She's well versed with multiple AI technologies. That's why we're talking to her today. That's the focus of the podcast. Um, if I managed to ask her sometime in my last call that how do you manage so many different projects at one go, and this was her classic Albert Einstein reply: "I have no special talent. I'm just passionate about. I'm just passionately curious. Hence, always learning." Do you,
Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes by one of the geniuses ever, Albert Einstein. I'm not that genius, but definitely I like to always keep learning, whether it was during my bachelor's, master's, during my work experience, or even later on when I'm like having some free time. I would always love to keep learning.
pre,
That
pre,
that that's why it's like one of my favorite quotes.
Previously, she's worked with a large telecom major as a big data scientist. I've also attached the LinkedIn profile and her Quora profile in the description. You can always connect with her anytime if you're looking for guidance, any mentorship related to cloud technologies or artificial intelligence. So, Chani, you're from Austin, right? How's
Yeah.
Austin these days? I've heard Silicon Valley is moving outside Silicon Valley, and Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Austin are one of these two major hubs. What's your view on
Yeah.
that?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. As per stats, many companies are moving out of California or having just branches in places like Texas, Florida. One of the key reasons I feel is maybe the cost.
I think
I mean, every
that's one of the major one.
yeah, everybody wants to have resources placed at good cost and have their services working. And I feel Texas, Florida, and other states are doing pretty well in that space. And of course, there are other cards like talent. So there are like pretty good universities like you have UT Austin, and I'm sure there are many more. So you get talent, you get a good place to set up your office, you have good people, and the weather in Austin is awesome. So I think those are some of the features. Of course, maybe not one of the most significant variables, but
Right.
definitely one of the good variables.
Great, great. Good luck. I think Austin, if Austin could attract a lot of VC money like Silicon Valley does, then nothing is stopping it.
Yeah, I hope so too, because if you see in the news, there are a lot of companies which are having their offices almost set up, and some offices are going to be set up very soon. So it's going to be a very booming era soon.
The focus of this podcast is machine learning for non-coders. So we'd like to break this podcast into two parts. Part A, where we learn more about this domain, and part B is you take us. How do I mean, all the audience who's watching this, or me, people like me who are from the business side, how do we get started with machine learning as a non-coder? So let's start with part A. So tell us about different frameworks and how do you look at each of these AI frameworks on what works well on what kind of projects?
Yeah, sure. Very good question, because I'm sure when anybody starts on AI, and even it's child ML, so they want to first understand the concepts and then just start coding, just start using the framework that we have and build good solutions. So talking about different frameworks, one of my personal favorites of all time since I started using the ML frameworks has been TensorFlow. The reason is because it's quite simple to use. I mean, inside part is very complex. I won't disagree with that, but still quite simple to use, and the concepts are there. Like it is for different language understanding, for perceptual tasks, that's there. And it's very compatible with a lot of hardware systems which are good for machine learning, like, we're talking about GPUs, and even now we have like TPUs, which are like different processing units. So that's there, and you know that it's actually running on one of the largest 1+ billion users services like Gmail, speech recognition, the Google Photos, and Google Search. So many things are there. Uh, Other than TensorFlow, I also like Kepe, which is basically designed for more of computer vision and image classification. But I'm sure people who are like, core into using something on library and I mean something on laptop and just installing stuff and getting started with image recognition, they would really like Kepe. But now as I talk about TensorFlow, Cafe, and there's a recent new framework which has come up is like Torch. So people are really liking PyTorch again because of it's like more you can say very flexible and blazing fast. So it's like a low-end machine learning framework, honestly. So that's one of the reasons. And on top of that, you have a lot of things like Keras. So you can use Keras even with TensorFlow. And so there are like a lot of machine learning frameworks, honestly. And when you think from an organization point of view, which one should you using? It depends, like what level of complexity you're trying to solve. Like if you're trying to not solving, something very complex, then you would have tried to avoid like something like Keras and all those things. So something simple ones like using some libraries on just scikit-learn, just get started and build some basic models. And further, if you have to like go to image recognition or even TensorFlow for basics one, it's pretty cool. And then you have to go for some higher ends and start with Keras or things like that. So there are like a lot of frameworks and how to use them. No specific rule. Just
And
use what you like.
and which framework is more friendly for non-coders? I've heard TensorFlow and Azure AI are more of drag and drop. I mean, you can connect your data source, you can pull up your regression model and connect it to output.
Yeah, that's true. One of the reasons is because TensorFlow is almost utilized as an MLAAS. I mean, like machine learning as a service.
Hmm.
So we like a lot of even cloud services. When you mentioned that I'm one of the people who are well versed in GCP, Azure, AWS, and all that stuff. So there are a lot of components, a lot of APIs, right, which have the TensorFlow backend. So you can just typically drag and drop or just integrate it with your existing systems. Other than that, you definitely, as you mentioned about the Azure, that's also one of the simple ones. The Azure ML is, you build your whole flows like the data sources, you mention your algorithms, whatever they are. Like, for example, you have to do a logistic regression or something like that, and just dump your data in some output, and then just you have your prediction available for testing. So these are the simple ones. Yeah.
Right. And what are my as a non-coder? What are my limitations? Like I know I do not understand mathematical proofs behind the algorithm, but what are my limitations? Can I try and test which algorithm is more suited to my training set? Um, what should I keep in my
Yeah,
mind?
you should keep in mind like like for example, I can give you a use case. Like I work on something, I build a model, and I know the insights of the model.
Right.
But anybody can test my model. They just have to know which is the model which is giving me a good precision, recall, and what's the good accuracy I'm giving. So I can just give them an info. Like, hey, this is the model. You can just use it for your testing. And as I mentioned, now things are so simple. You literally have like some API sort of front end where you can just drag and drop. Even like for example for image classification, you just drop one image and just click on hey, just test it out, and you get all the results like hey, this is the accuracy and likely this is going to be a dog, a cat, or whatever.
Right.
So it's so simple, especially the testing part. Like really anybody can use it. I can say even my sister can use it who's not an engineer.
Right. And at what stage should I consult a data scientist rather than, I mean, you think for creating a model I should consult a data scientist first and then run my own brain and testing?
Definitely. Reason being because some things are very general, like when you're dealing with, just predict what's going to be your sale for something tomorrow. Some things are going to be very basic, so maybe you will not need a very highly experienced data scientist. That's the good part.
Hmm.
That's why many people who are new to the field are able to utilize, their capabilities and able to get good jobs. So that's good. But when you go into complex things like something very customized or something very having a very deep problem, like something not a very clear cut that you can just plug in some libraries and just run some existing functions and just get your results. So definitely need to consult the data scientist because he will not only just know which algorithm to use, but further how to tune it, further how to give you very good results and ultimately solve your problem. So yeah.
Great. So you spent some time in as a cloud engineer, right? So
Yeah.
what kind of projects do you work on? What is like a typical day? What do you work on long term projects which are like 3 months to 6 months old, or you work with a short turnaround projects?
Yeah, very good question. So, like, my basic agenda as for my role is just to solve problems. So, I don't have any constraint like, short term, long term, mid term, whatever. I just like to take problems as per my skill set or as per my interest. Like, there are some things which I am not very well versed at, and those things are, some things which are very booming, like reinforcement learning in again in AI. So, which is not as solved as the other lines, but I'm interested. So I'll just try to pick up things like that, and it depends on the problem. Like some problems can be easily solved in like a couple of months, and some really take some long time because they are like, we don't even know how to go about it. There are a lot of research papers where we have to consult, talk to different people, like, hey, this is one of the solutions which we propose. What do you think about it? And there's a lot of collaboration there. So for me, it's like all short term, long term, mid term, whatever.
Right. And which AI framework do you most frequently use?
I most frequently use definitely Tensor Flow, and other than that, I also use Keras. Yeah, those are the some things that I use a lot.
Right. One more interesting question I had: where do you get the best ideas when you say you solve problems?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get the best ideas? I mean, historically.
That's a very very good question because that's something for which I don't think just a degree or just some experience will give you. It's like a iterative process.
Right.
So I like to read a lot of blogs personally, and always like to be updated in LinkedIn. There are so many talented and super knowledgeable people in LinkedIn, which I find they post that good stuff, and I just go to their posts and read, hey, what's going on, what's new, and all that stuff. And other than that, I have like so many books with me. I've not finished many of them, but I do intend to, and I like reading them. So books, these blogs, a lot of online courses are there. So I have not stopped learning, as I mentioned, and I would highly recommend anybody there. There are a lot of good online courses to go about it. People really give good content about from their experience point of view and even from concepts, because some things like when you think about machine learning, it's like maths. People are like, oh, no, not math, please, I don't like it. But there are people who have made it so simple, so definitely I try to learn from them and
In my
start
last
learning.
podcast, actually, one of the guests he told me that there are a lot of mathematical uh, theories like behind all algorithms. But if you don't
Yeah.
understand any of those, just give it a mess. I mean, just continue what you're learning with. I mean, it's not so significant.
Yeah, that's very true because as I mentioned, even ML is like there are different levels, right? It's not like always very extremely maths, but yeah, if you want to go to that level that you actually want to build products, which will be used by many other people just as a service, then definitely you cannot avoid maths. I'm so sorry, because you need to understand the insights, how you can actually be able to build something like that. But when it's something like as an API, as a service or something like that, from front end perspective, then you don't need to be so much being crazy about maths. Without much maths, little bit of concepts, it's good enough.
So you've taken out math, you've taken out coding. I think machine learning is more simpler than I thought.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's not that difficult. I mean, I know many people have give up when they were trying to learn it. Um, but it's not that difficult. Trust me. It is just that what I personally feel it requires is passion. You really want to learn. You really are interested, and that's it. That's all you need. Even like when I started using it, I just did some high school maths and all that stuff, and it was like, oh my God, yeah, I studied this in my 10th grade, and oh, it's like that, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's not that difficult. But again, let me give a disclaimer. When I go further, it is difficult, but again, as I mentioned, in the initial, it's not that much. So totally depends on to what level of ML you want to do.
Right. This brings us to the next part on what's the kind of learning path somebody should take to master machine learning. What do you think are the prerequisites if somebody wants to get started with machine learning?
Very good question. Actually, this was one of the questions somebody asked in Quora, and I replied. So I would try to give something from there because I personally believe in that answer. So as I mentioned, even in the previous part, one of the biggest things you require is passion and interest. So that is like the core. If you have that, then the rest of the journey is almost solved. So the next part is to understand, like, where you want to learn from, like, whom do you want to learn from, which guru or which site or which course, which thing will actually give you those, give that knowledge to you that you are able to solve these problems. So it's like a, uh, you know, long answer, which it's like I don't know, I don't know how
And
to summarize it, but
and what kind of technical skills would you suggest? I mean, a lot of my peers who tell me that you need to understand few statistics basics, or maybe you need to get some basics of Python or R. Uh, what do you suggest?
yeah, yeah. That is something that even I would suggest, not too much depth, but definitely because I have seen people, some people are like very much just amazed, like, oh, ML is so cool, AI is so cool, it's so booming in the market, I want to use it. So that does last till quite a long time because you have such an awesome tutorials and so many things available online that you just read through and you're able to, build something, you're able to solve something. But again, that's more of an engineering and not of a science. So when you want to go to the science thing, right, you definitely need to know the concepts. You cannot ignore that. So I definitely start with statistics, basic statistics, and trust me, they are not so difficult. Books like I have this ISR, which is there. Then you have ESL. These are like very, very simple books and very easy to understand. Then you have, other tutorials like these online courses. So it's not that difficult, trust me.
Which websites or blogs would you recommend? Like which you regularly visit?
Yeah, so I would say definitely, just start with first like websites like Medium or just get connected with a lot of good groups in LinkedIn or with good people who post some very simple things or even some complex things in a simple way. So, like I remember one of the recent posts I saw was on different kinds of neural networks, and they were like not just CNN, RNN, and just the ones that we all know, but there were like so many more. And the way the post explained it, I was like, wow, it's so nice. So start with there so you will know something, right? And you know like what kind of problems it's able to solve and what are the things that it is used to solve. The next step should be to actually enroll yourself in a good course. Now this can be some online course, and in online course I highly recommend the Andrew Ng course, which is there in Coursera.
Coursera, right?
Really awesome because he makes maths so simple. You will be like, oh yeah, I don't know calculus, but I do understand this. So, so that is something that you can start with, and then there is like a lot of courses, and like even in Coursera, you can do a specialization, and that's really valuable in the market. So So you can do that too. And there are a lot of things like Udacity, and it just goes on. Udemy, just goes on. Once you are in that, that flow, that, hey, I know little something, and then you keep on adding little, it really becomes a big data of knowledge.
You truly personalize that big data.
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of learning, tell me something which you think is true, but almost everybody you meet, they say that they don't agree with you.
Uh, People who generally don't agree are the ones. Maybe first thing is that they just are interested in a way like, hey, this is such a cool thing, and I hear everybody's talking about it. I want to do it.
Hmm.
That's one part that can give you some push, like, okay, I have to do it. But until unless you really understand it, try to understand it, and you get the right path. That's why so many people, they respect teachers, right? Because they
Right.
give you the right path, and they tell you, hey, if you want to achieve this, you have to go in this path and do such things.
Hmm.
So either of those things is, if it's lacking, people do give up, and they are like, hey, no, it's very difficult. Data science, AI. I mean, yeah, AI would be much more difficult than ML, definitely. But yeah, those are the people who actually give up. So we need to mentor them, and that's why I am trying to be one of the mentors.
Great, great. And if I'm say a beginner kind of, I did some courses on Coursera. Now I want to go ahead in my learning path.
Yes.
What would you recommend to go into a slightly better stage?
Yes, very good question. So once you know a little bit of concepts, you know some algorithms, and you know something, right? Like, just to start off, I would say go hit Kaggle. I mean, there are a lot of data sets there. Some of them are like real business problem type of data sets. So they really give you a good way. And there are discussion forums in Kaggle too. So it's not like you are all by yourself trying to solve something. There are really smart people or even beginner people who are trying to solve something, and you can learn from them too. So
So you need not participate in the competition, but just even working on those
no,
data sets.
there are competitions which are already over. So I would suggest start from there, because the solutions are already there. So you can have a check on, hey, this is what I thought, and this is what actually it looks like. So you can, like,
Right.
on your self, try to make yourself learn more.
One
Personal improvement, continuous learning. Those are the terms.
Right. One last question. What is one piece of advice would you give to people uh, who want to get into machine learning, especially the non-coder ones?
Yeah, so if you are a non-coder, definitely start with a lot of APIs, because I assume that if you are a non-coder, you just want to make use of machine learning in your services, in your application, in your company, whatever is the case. So start with a lot of APIs. There are such powerful APIs of vision, of speech, of text, of natural language. You really have a lot of cool stuffs out there. So start with from there. Like, you will understand how a model actually works. You don't have to dig into actually make a customized solution. Start from there, and then it's totally on your interest, your job requirements again, and whatnot. So it's a long list, and then you can just go on with all the previous stuff that I just talked about, all these customized solutions.
Right, right. All right, Chandni, thank you so much for taking your time. Really appreciate it. I'm sure all of us on as the audience have benefited a lot out of this talk.
I hope so too.
Good luck for your future endeavors. See you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.